Awesome. Welcome everyone to this, I would say, final workshop in the quality of life month. So this month in the Lifebook community, we celebrate quality of life. And with Marilyn, we've been talking about all the different experiences and the bucket list and all the, the big experiences we usually plan for this month. But today, what I wanted to talk about is the daily experiences and routines, the mundane, right? Like we were saying earlier, cooking, shower, going to work, opening a package. Yes, you're gonna laugh right now, but there are so many different things we do in a day, from the smallest thing to the biggest thing. But that's what fills the day. And sometimes we say we're busy because we're doing all these things. But what if we actually make them enjoyable? What if we love them? What if we enjoy them? What if we savor them? Because that's life, right? This is our day to day. If we're going to wait for that weekend, for that trip, for that long vacation, just to have a life, then it might not even come. I know people who always plan for vacations and they never get to go on vacations. So how can we love what we do every single day and truly enjoy our lives? Because life happens now in this moment. Okay. So before I begin, who am I? So for those who don't know me, I'm Anna Kelian from Lebanon. Now I recently moved to Dubai. I am the founder of Rise and Eagle. I help people create better experiences for themselves and others as an experienced strategy coach. I don't give the strategies. I guide you with coaching questions to find your own strategies. And today we're going to talk about how to create better experiences, one, for ourselves, and two, for others. So, we live on this planet. We want to have extraordinary lives. Again, we don't want to wait for those big moments and countable moments in a year. We want to make sure that we are living at least what I call less frustrating days, right? Because most of the time, our day-to-day lives, we're rushed. If you're not, it's good for you. But the more we rush, the more we have on our plates, the more we create this frustration for ourselves, which takes away that enjoyment. On the other hand, we also live in communities. Each one of us didn't end up on a separate planet and just go rule the world, right? So we live in a community, we live in an ecosystem. And how we treat others, how we have these shared experiences where we have win-win situations. Also, how we live the environment around us. When we go on a picnic, do we clean up after ourselves, right? What are the different things we do that, and what impact they have on others through our experiences? And this is we're gonna focus on how to be considerate of our decisions and actions when it comes to that. So the technique, before I jump into technique, the aim is no regrets, right? So the entire technique I built is on the concept of how can I live a life with no regrets? Because if we're taking action, if we're just doing things without thinking, without planning, and we'll talk about the technique now, we're creating also regretful moments, right? Sometimes we jump into action and then we regret it. So how can we make sure that we're having great experiences, even if it's not a great experience? Like the reason I use the word better is because we just want to improve that experience based on what we can control, because we can't control everything, right? And how can we make sure that we don't have regrets at the end of the year? So the technique I devised is called clarity is the first strategy. Before, I used to call this clarity before strategy, because and the Lifebook community knows we do the premise, vision, and purpose before strategies, because if you don't have that clarity, you can't choose a strategy. Like, what exercise do you do in the morning? Do you go to the gym? Do you do yoga? Do you run? Which one do you choose? You can't do all. You need to choose. But based on what? if you don't have clarity, and if you don't know all the categories of your life and which strategy will fit right into that lifestyle where you're taking care of all of your categories, then the strategy is gonna, like, you're gonna be changing strategy after strategy, and you're gonna be frustrated because you don't have that clarity. So clarity comes first. But then I realized that this entire technique is actually a strategy, right? Like, do the clarity exercise first. So I'm calling it clarity is the first strategy. And what is this? So this is a technique which has 4 layers to it. Most of the things that happen are in the action step, which is number 3. But if we just jump into the action without clarity and planning, we're setting ourselves to frustration. And if we don't do the wrap up or closure, we're creating a lot of problems. And we'll see throughout the demonstration here with some examples what I mean. So basically, we're going to start with clarity, then we're going to plan before we take action. And when we take action, we want to make, because we have done the clarity and the planning, we will take effortless action, we will enjoy the action. There should be nothing stopping us because we just laid the ground for it. And then that's where the enjoyment will be. But obviously, this entire thing should be an enjoyable experience as well. And then the wrap up, it's about cleaning, it's about optimization, and we'll talk about it further. If there are any questions, also please leave them in the chat, and I'll get back to them at the end. So the first step is to get clarity. What does it mean? It means coaching yourself. It means asking the right questions. And before I jump into the different types of questions we can ask, I want to say this. Getting clarity and planning, don't use them as a way to procrastinate on action. These are supposed to be quick things to do. I'm going to go slow through them right now because they are new to you. But at some point, you're getting used to these things, and they're going to be like checklists you're going to use daily, real quick. They might even take less than a minute or less than 5 minutes, depending on the type of experience, right? If it's a huge project, then you need to plan it and you need more time for it maybe. But most of the daily experiences, this is just going to take you a few minutes. So what do we mean by getting clarity? We want to get clarity on a few things before we start anything, before we start our day, before we start our week, before we jump on this workshop, before we jump on any call, before we go to work, before we go to the mall or bank, whatever it is. So the first thing I want to check is my state of being. What do I mean by my state of being? State of being is I've identified as a person. So again, if I share any strategies here, these are my strategies. So feel free to use your own thinking, use your own judgment, and use your own approach or belief system. So for me, as a human being, I have a body, I have a mind, I have emotions, I need to regulate my energy, and I have a soul, right? Like, oh, did I say soul? I said soul. I think, right? No, I didn't. I said emotions. Okay. So body, mind, emotions, energy, and soul. Now, when I'm checking my state of being, what am I doing? So the moment I wake up, I say, did I sleep well? Is my body sore or relaxed? Do I have any pains, or is I'm moving freely and there are no pains? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Do I need to go to the bathroom? What's the state of my body? Am I still sleepy? So is my body in an ideal state to start this day, or do I need to sleep again? Do I need to go to the bathroom? Do I need to drink water? Do I need to eat, right? So that's the state of my physical being. The next thing I ask is, am I in the right mental state? So is my mind already rushing through the events of the day, or is it calm? Is it violent as a stormy sea, or is it calm, right? So I'm just doing a checkup, a check-in with myself. Next, emotionally, how am I feeling? Am I excited about the day? Am I happy? Am I fearful? Am I depressed? What are my emotions? Energetically, do I feel like I have enough energy to go about the day, or am I drained? And I'm asking the same questions before every experience, right? So I'll give some examples in a minute. Also, my soul state, like what's my soul telling me? How is my connection to my higher self? So here, mostly people have different types of kind of relation with their spirit or soul. For me, I'm checking if my ego is louder than my higher self. If my higher self is louder, I can, my intuition is higher, and I know what's my calling for the day. It impacts my energy, impacts my emotion, right? They are all related to each other, but doing this different type of kind of dissecting them allows me to see where I have a problem, where I need to fix. So basically, if you want, you can say, I'm looking where, what I need to work on to make sure that I'm in the right state of being to start my day or to join a meeting and so on.
Sure.
So the next thing is, I want to ask about the experience. So how does this work for, an experience? So for example, before this workshop, I checked my state of being, right? I'm like, okay, I need to sit in front of this camera for an hour. What's my state of being? Am I sleepy? Will I be yawning in front of people? Do I need to nap before this call? Do I need to eat? Or do I need to drink? Do I need to visit the bathroom? Especially, this is the type of check-in I do, especially on days when I have back-to-back meetings, right? Like between meetings, we sometimes say the meeting is 50 minutes. So I have 10 minutes break between meetings, and then we just talk and talk and talk. And then next meeting starts and oh my God, I needed to go to the bathroom, right? So this is the type of check-in I do. So I'm not frustrated. I'm not, because here's the thing, it's going to pull you out. It's going to distract you. Your body's going to pull you out of that moment. And if anyone of you here is like sitting in a position that feeling some aches, that's going to distract you from what I'm talking. You're going to be distracted by that, right? So the state of being is important. Also, if I'm thinking about the previous meeting while I'm here, I can't focus. If my emotions are turbulent, guess what? It's even worse, not because I can't focus, but I can also become toxic, and I can taint the entire experience if I'm angry from a previous experience. So your state of being is really important. The next part is the experience itself. So I want you to ask these questions, and I'm going to slow down a little bit here to really make you think about the questions a little bit. So the first question I ask is, what is this experience about? What are my feelings about this? So for example, if I have a gathering with my old schoolmates, how do I feel about that? Who are the parties involved? Who's coming to this meeting, let's say, or gathering? What are my feelings about this? Is this just the thought of it stirring emotions, bringing back old memories? Why am I about to experience this? Like, what do I really need to be part of this? Sometimes I get invited to meetings, for example, and I immediately go and ask, what's the return of investment for me? What's my presence? What's the value of my presence for you? Why am I invited to this? Because I'm investing my time and energy into something. So I need to know if I need to be here or not. Like, you chose to be at this workshop right now. Why? Right? You want to make that decision. I know that I prepared for this workshop, right? And probably all of you think, oh yeah, for sure, Anna's presenting. She prepared the presentation, she did the planning, but you came to attend this. Did you prepare for this session? Or you just came here, opened Zoom and sat here, right? So this type of planning, you might think it's, oh my God, Anna, seriously, we have so many things. You want us just to think these questions through? But I'm saying is it helps you eliminate a lot of frustration. It helps you focus and get the most out of any experience. So another question would be, when and where is this experience? And again, what are the feelings associated with that? Because sometimes it's, let's say it's in a place where you have a very bad memory and you prepare everything for it, but you never consider that memory and never address it before the meeting. And you go there and all of a sudden you get triggered and all the expectations you had come crashing down. And you might also be toxic in that environment because you're just not there. You're just in the past. You just recalled something, right? Or you might just pull in a corner and reminisce on something bad that happened and go into depressive moods. So after all these questions, I'm going to check again with my state of being. Am I physically ready for this? Am I mentally, emotionally, and energetically ready for this? So imagine if you're asking these questions in the morning, you can take the day off if you're not feeling well, because you know that you're going to drag throughout the day. If you're physically and mentally and emotionally really not there, you're going to drag through the day. You're going to feel even more exhausted because every task, however trivial, it's going to take you much longer, right? And any interaction is going to just drain you, except for if that is actually energizing to you and helpful to you, that might help. So for example, I had a similar example experience yesterday. I woke up super energized. My state of being was high. I also went on a walk and I'm like, awesome. I'm fully charged. I'm ready to take on the day. I open an email and bam, I read something that just takes my state of being from that high position to emotionally and my thoughts. And this is something probably I'll address in another session. What happened is, I'll quickly share how this works. What happened is I read something that I felt was an attack on me. So I immediately self-sabotaged myself with my thoughts and got from, if you know Maslow's hierarchy, I was in the high self-esteem state. All of a sudden, my self-esteem was stabbed by my own thoughts because of the way I interpreted that email. And then I'm like, oh my God, people don't love me. This person doesn't love me. I'm self-sabotaging myself in less than a minute by my thoughts and emotions, right? And then I'm like, I don't feel secure. But after this email, I feel like my job's threatened. And guess what? If that thought continued, I was going to end up in the survival mode and say, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. And all of it is unreal. It's just me self-sabotaging myself, right? So what I did, I immediately called a friend who I knew that would understand my situation. And I said, listen, I got triggered by this email. I want you to read it and let me know if I understood it correctly, because now I cannot, if I read it again, I'm triggered. I'm in a state that I'm going to interpret it as an attack. Well, it probably is not an attack, or maybe it is. So I asked two different people, and then my state of being gradually, I got up the Maslow's hierarchy, I got up the emotional scale, and I was, okay, I can go back to work. If not, I would have actually said, hey, I'm going to take a mental health day. Because if you're not in that position, in that place where you can focus and get work done, not doing it is better, because you're going to waste 4 hours on a task that takes 15 minutes and still not going to be happy about it, right? So this is why these check-ins are really helpful. So the next thing is, what are your expectations? This is an important question because I've seen this with others and I've seen this with myself. We set too high expectations for the experiences, right? Let's say we had this union again, take that example. You're like, oh my God, you get all these good memories from school and you imagine that's going to be the same. And then guess what? You're going to be frustrated because it's not going to be the same. People have changed and so on. It might be better, it might not. So the question is, do I have expectations? And also, am I setting myself up for frustration with these expectations? Right? And I think it was William Shakespeare who said, expectation is the mother of all heartache. So be very careful and identify, do you have expectations? Because these will set you up for frustration, right? Instead, say, what is my intention, right? What is my intention? what do I want to get out of this experience? Don't have like, let's say I'm trying a new recipe, right? And I always say, oh, this is going to be a successful recipe. I'm going to make this, and it's going to be perfect. And it's probably going to fail. My intention is to learn something new, to learn to cook something new. And I'm hopeful that it's going to, work out. It's a better, it's better to have that intention than to set the expectation. Lastly, I wanted to ask, what benefits does this experience have for me? What am I investing? And what is the return of investment? Because we have so much on our plates already. And the world out there, social media, internet, is just asking us to put more on our plate. So if I wake up to a full calendar, I'm asking this question the first thing in the morning. What can I trim out? Which one of these, if I don't do it right now, I mean, I really, really want to, but which one of them has the lowest return of investment? Which one of them requires a lot of investment from me, but has a very low return of investment? Then why am I even participating in this, right? We want to be essentialists. We want to eliminate these things. Why? I feel like with the way we live these days, and I see this with everyone, including myself, we wear multiple hats, right? We're like, oh, I live once. I want to be the mother and the CEO of a company. Who can stop me? But we need to be honest with ourselves. We still have 24 hours in a day. And the more hats we wear, the less time each of those people we have in a day, right? So you can't be if you're a CEO and a mother and someone who wants to go to the gym every single day, and we want to do these things, right? We all want to do it because we see it, because it's a trend, and I'm not saying it's not possible. What I'm saying is we cannot be a full-time CEO and a full-time mother at the same time. It's going to be part-time. So how are we going to organize our days so we're not rushing through these things and building up all these frustrations throughout the day? And we have time to take throughout the day to energize ourselves, right? Like, you put your phone on a charger. Do you charge yourself? Do we do that? Do we take a nap in the day, in the middle of the day? Do we take a shower? Do we go on a walk? Do we do anything, any kind of strategy that allows us to recharge before we change our hats? Right? And one of the things I see a lot is because of the rush, we forget to change our hats. Like, I work from home. So there is no environment even telling me, and I'll remove this hat, leave it at the office, and go home. So what happens is when my brother comes from work, all of a sudden I'm talking about work problems with him. And I've closed my work laptop, right? I'm like, Anna, remove the hat, be the sibling. It's time to cook. It's time to have dinner. It's time to have a family conversation, not talk about work. But because of the rush, we forget that. And how many times we see this example with people like mothers coming from work frustrated, and they pour all that anger on their children or their spouses. That's because we're not, and we're coming to that point, which is the wrap up part. Okay, so I'm going to start moving a little faster so I can take questions later. So the clarity part is really important. It's letting us know if we can trim some of these experiences away so we can have better experiences with the ones that are left. And if this is what you're doing, I would say at the start of a day or start of a week usually, and I usually plan for 2 weeks ahead, because sometimes you want to know, like, hey, I am invited to a birthday. Do I need to buy clothes? Do I need to buy a gift? You don't want to think about it right before you go to the birthday, right? So it's good to have that kind of sense of where you are with a margin of like 2 weeks. So once you have asked all these questions, now based on these questions, we're choosing, do I need to be, or do I want to be part of this experience or these experiences for this day? If the answer is yes, then you don't need to plan it. You don't need to take any action on it. See, if you never got that clarity, how much of our time we're spending on something that we don't need to actually do. So for example, I was supposed to go, I planned to go to the bank on Tuesday. But because I was planning the week and I was checking the opening hours of the bank, I noticed that they were closed for a holiday. Imagine if I didn't do that and I went on a cab and I put the money, spent the money, and I went there and they're like, oh, we're closed. If I don't get that clarity, if I don't think ahead, if I don't plan, how much time and energy and money am I wasting? So once we identify if we want to be part of this experience, and by the way, this is really helpful even right before the experience. I've canceled so many meetings right before the meeting because I wasn't in the right state of being. Because I realized that, wait a minute, why did I even say yes to this meeting? Before it was hard for me. It was like, oh, Anna, come on, last minute you can't. It's not good. You're disrespecting this person, etc. But then I decided that it's better if I'm transparent, right? And we talk about this in the end about better experiences for others. I would actually say, hey, listen, I woke up not feeling really well, or I just heard bad news. I won't be able to focus with you. This meeting is going to be a waste of your time and mine, right? So I just pull myself out, we reschedule, and we meet sometime else. So the next step is planning, okay? So once we have the clarity, we want to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan and jump into action again, you might be working on things that you don't want to do, you don't need to do, right? So the planning part is basically deciding, how can I make this the simplest way possible? Like, how can I make this efficient and effective and effortless and enjoyable? So this is the part that matters as well. So all of them are equal, by the way. All parts are equal. So the first question I ask is, okay, what's the action plan? I write down all the things I think I need to do, and then I start trimming them. Okay, like, how can I simplify this? Do I really need to do all these steps, or can I jump around this? So sometimes, like, for example, do I need to do research, or can I ask someone and it's faster? Or even if I want to do research, a lot of times I do this and and then I stop myself. Like, I open Google and I type anything, and I'm frustrated by looking at the answer. I'm like, this is not answering my question. Well, I wasn't clear with my question. And second, did I even need to do the research? How many of you here have libraries? What I mean by libraries is you have a watch list on YouTube, you have a Pinterest board, you have Instagram boards, you have saved a lot of links and things, right? All these libraries, I gathered all these resources. But then again, I go immediately to Google and not even check those resources. Well, the answers might be there, right? I might have the right tool there, but it's easier to search. So I just jump there. So having that clarity, and we talk about this in another session probably as well. I know I promised in a previous workshop where we talk about note-taking and how we want to create these libraries so it's easier for us to find the information. Because that's the problem. How many times you buy something that you already have? It's because you don't know where it is, or you don't see it, because we don't put the things in the right place. So once we have the action plan, once we trim it, we want to start asking questions again. There's clarity in every stage. So what do I need to be ready for this experience? I call them the ingredient list. For cooking, you need the ingredients, right? So just like you prepare the ingredient list, what are the things I need? So one of the things I do is every time I want to go out of the house, I just have a quick checklist. Like, okay, is it raining? I took the umbrella check. Is it the sun? I took the sunglasses check. Keys check. Phone check. Money check, right? I'm just checking if I have all the ingredients, because I don't want to go back and forth because I forgot something, or get frustrated in the middle of the commute, remembering that I forgot this thing I need today. So what is my ingredient list? Like, for example, for this call, I have a glass of water. I have my computer set up, everything. I tested this 30 minutes before the call. Want to make sure that everything was working fine, because how frustrating it is, especially if you're new to workshops, to just walk in 1 minute before and everything's not working, right? So that's part of the planning. Then the next question is, do I need to learn anything? Again, this can be become a procrastination problem. So we don't want to do that, right? So if you think that you need to take a million courses before you take the first action, you're on the wrong path. Let me tell you from now. What I mean by the knowledge check is that when you do a knowledge check, say, okay, I wrote my action steps, I wrote my action plan. Do I need to learn anything to take the first step, or can I do it? And when I say learning, it doesn't mean watching a YouTube video or taking a course. Also, it means, do I need enough information? Do I have enough information? So for example, if my first step is I want to open a bank account, I want to call the bank, I just Google the bank's phone number. That's the information I need. That's it. That's it. The next step, do I need to do more research? Like, okay, what documentation they want? I email them or check their website first, then email them and get, every step you're getting clarity and you're planning for every step, especially, as I said, depending on your experience. If it's a big project, then you'll need to do these steps every time you're working on the project. So there might be chunks that you're working on. But if it's something like, for example, you're going to take a shower, what's the clarity you need, or what's the preparation? Did I have my towel with me, and is there shampoo? Because I've seen this happen with me a lot, and I go in, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot the towel. Or I go in and I see that there's no shampoo, and I start yelling and blaming other people, saying, who finished the shampoo and didn't tell me? Well, I could have just checked before I went in. And also hot water, like we need to turn on the hot water. And if I didn't do that, if I didn't plan for it, guess what? I need to shower before this workshop and there's no hot water. Who can I blame? It's up to me to plan these things, right? It's up to me to check them. So even those trivial, small kind of things, mundane things that we forget, we save a ton of frustration for ourselves. And guess why that is important? It's not just because it happens in the moment, it accumulates. Because at the end of the day, you feel exhausted, drained, super frustrated. And if someone asks, how was your day? You're like, oh my God, it was the worst. Or it was another busy day. It was very frustrating. We don't want to end our day that way, right? So if we're making sure that every single thing we do during the day doesn't add to the frustration, then imagine, like, it's 7:39 p.m. here, and I'm super excited and energized. Like, I can go to a party after this call because I'm doing this throughout the day, making sure my state of being is always in a good place, right? So also assess the situation. So like if you're planning a trip, how's the weather going to be there? You don't want to pack for a trip based on, oh, you're going to say, I'm going to Dubai. Let me just pack some shorts and t-shirts. Guess what? If you don't do the research, we actually have cold nights here. There's AC here everywhere, and I can't even go to the mall without a jacket. It's freezing inside, right? So if you don't do the research, you never know. We had thunderstorms a few days ago. So do the research. Know what's the situation for the event or experience. Also check your skills. Like, do you need to practice something? So for example, I practiced this presentation with myself to make sure that I had figured out how to do it. It's not going exactly as I planned. Who cares? I put myself in a good state of being, saying, okay, I'm ready for this, right? But check your skills. And then again, check your state of being immediately before you take action. Because right now we're going to start talking about action. I want to say, okay, am I emotionally and energetically ready to take this action? Okay. So next we take action. Now that we have clarity, we have the plan, we're just ready, set, go. That's what I say, right? Ready, set, go. This is what we did. We got ready and we planned for it, and now we're ready to go. And this is the most enjoyable part of the entire thing. Why? Because now you set yourself up for success or enjoyment or even experiencing whatever it is. And I'm going to tell you an example of how I prepared for my back surgery. And everyone was really like blown away, including myself. I never knew that. That was probably the first time I used this technique without even knowing about it. And then I kind of figured out, oh, I was doing that. So the moment I had, I blew a disc in my back, and we went to the hospital. The doctor said, ER right now, or else you're losing your legs. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. It's going to be fine. You'll never, ever experience back pain again. This is going to be great, Anna. You've been having this problem for years and years and years. So I had the intention of that this is going to go like great, but also I'm ready for anything. Like whatever happens, I'm ready for this. The next day after the surgery, I asked the nurse to put on some nail polish and makeup, and I don't want to look sick, you know, and I started walking, although the doctor told me not to until after 24 hours. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm doing this. It's over. I'm ready to take the steps. And then all of a sudden, whenever a different nurse or a doctor came in, it's like, oh my God, they did a surgery and you had nail polish, which is not allowed. I said, no, I want to look, you know, healthy. So anything that, even if that painful kind of situation that I was in, and it was painful, right, for my body, but mentally, emotionally, energetically, I was trying my best to make it an enjoyable moment, to fully experience the situation, right? Even the pain, I was saying, thank you for the pain, for letting me know that there's a problem, and I came to the doctor and we fixed this, right? So once you have that plan, you're ready to go. And because you have the plan, you can fully be present and enjoy the action. And what we do here is usually I suggest that you create a sort of a checklist, which is the action plan that we put in before, right? And eventually turn them into systems, because now we're talking about these mundane experiences, right? So if you're doing the, let's say the example I gave when I go out of the house, have that checklist, like all the things you need to check to make sure that you have all the ingredients or the things you need with you before you leave. Whatever it is, like for meetings, I have also another ritual, and I call these routines or rituals. Rituals are, I prefer to call them rituals because rituals have more meaning, make it more enjoyable, I feel. And when I say it's a ritual, like my morning coffee is a ritual, I slow down. I enjoy every moment of making the coffee and drinking the coffee. While if I call it a routine, I feel like, oh my God, I woke up late. I need to rush through this. While in fact, even if I wake up at 10 a.m., I still go for my walk. I still take my coffee because I'm like, no, this morning ritual is what preps me for the entire day. I give it different meaning. So once you have these rituals in, you get used to it, and it's just you're ready to go. So having checklists and systems is really helpful to go through the actions real fast, because we want to get to the end results eventually, right? But obviously, we also want to enjoy the process. So staying present is the most important thing, because you cannot enjoy something if you're not present. But to stay present, we need to keep monitoring our state of being. So for example, when I'm working on this presentation, I knew that it's going to take some amount of time. I couldn't make an estimate because I don't know like how much time it was going to take, because I was just working on the notes and the presentation at the same time. I used the Pomodoro technique. So I set a timer for 25 minutes. And after the clock, you know, the timer stopped, I was, okay, let's do a state of being check. It's been 25 minutes. I had to go to the bathroom. Okay. I need a drink of water. Okay. I need to get more coffee. Okay. You know, and how am I feeling energetically? Did this 25 minutes of full focused work drain me? Do I need maybe to dance or sing? These are the different things I do. Like what strategy you have to replenish your energy? Sometimes I do a call. I call my mom or call someone within the 5-minute break that I get in the Pomodoro. So these are the times I take to check my state of being, because most of the things I realize is when I'm working on a project and I don't stop, like sometimes I work on 4 hours straight. What happens is during that time, because you're not taking those breaks to do the check-in, I'm feeling, even though obviously if my body needs anything, I'll mindlessly have probably went to the bathroom a few times during those 4 hours, but I don't even remember because my mind was still on the work, right? So I never stopped, basically, even if I moved away from the laptop. But what happens is that gradually my pace was slowing down, my energy was draining, my focus was going away because I wasn't giving myself the break and I wasn't checking my state of being. So what happens is maybe I would have actually finished it in 2 hours plus a few breaks if I took the breaks and if I did the check-in instead of dragging over and over for 4 hours. And I've sometimes even worked until 2 a.m. on projects because I never took enough breaks to check with myself and say, Anna, you're wasting time here. You're wasting energy. Go sleep. You'll finish this probably much faster in the morning, right? And then the last thing is, I also want you to think of monitoring your thoughts, right? Or any distraction that comes in. So for example, right now I'm talking, right? And you're listening. Are you distracted by something else? You might be checking your phone. You might be focusing on something else. You might be distracted by anything else, right? So even if you're focused with me, all of a sudden you might find yourself lost in your thoughts. And why that happens is that because maybe I said something and you're like, oh, this is good insight. And your mind started thinking about it, right? It's okay. But if you notice and catch it, that's a good thing. And don't stop because sometimes the good ideas come there, right? Write it down. Okay, write it down or say, hey, is this an idea which I need to write it down? Is it something I remember to do that I need to write it down? Or is it a thought emotion cycle, right? Did it trigger an old memory that might actually allow me to make me self-sabotage myself, right? Because we need to differentiate between thoughts and ideas. Ideas and insights are really great, but thoughts which are worries or memories, then we have a problem, because those are gonna really take us out of reality and pull us away and drain our energy and impact our state of being. So the next and last point with the action step is document in the moment. What do I mean by this? So for example, if you track your expenses, I track all my expenses. The moment I make the payment, I immediately add it to my expense app. Why? Because I really, and I'm going to use the word that I don't like to use too much, hate working with numbers every week or every month. If I have to get all these, where are they? These pieces of receipts, gather them, and then take a look at them and try and figure out what was the date, what was the amount, what was the category, I'm going to hate myself. And it's going to take me forever and probably postpone it and never do it. But I want to track my expenses. So I've made it more fun and enjoyable for me. I have the app on my phone. I'm like, okay, until they print the receipt for me, I just type it in immediately. And it takes a few seconds and I have it where I need it. The same goes with any kind of notes that come up during any experience, especially during meetings. But one thing I want to say, again, we'll do a workshop on note taking because it's a very important how we take notes. Because if you just jot down ideas or notes randomly, it's not going to be useful. Trust me. Sometimes it is in the moment because the moment you write it, it's recorded better in your mind. But if you're writing them on sticky notes, and we'll talk about this in the next step, guess what? After 3 meetings in a day, back-to-back meetings, you're going to look at those notes and say, oh my God, what am I going to do with these? And there's going to be pieces of paper and sticky notes everywhere. And it's going to add more frustration and worries, and you're feeling overwhelmed and all these things. But if you document them in the moment, in the right place, then we don't have that kind of problem because you know where to find them. And there are a lot of strategies we can talk about note taking in some other session because We don't want to take too much of our time. And then the wrap up is basically, we just want to close the chapter. We just want to end that experience. And we rarely do this. We rarely do this. And this is something I realized when I was using this technique. This part wasn't part of it. Like for me, the wrap up was just clean up, right? Like I finish cooking, I clean up the kitchen, I'm done. I finish a meeting, I close the computer and I'm done. Well, no, if I had multiple tabs open in my computer, did I close them? Did I finish that session? Did I record those links or whatever information was there where it needed to go and close them? So they are not top of mind the entire day. Because if I'm doing back-to-back meetings, and if I don't have that closure, guess what's going to happen? First, in the next meeting, my state of being is not in the right place because my mind, the state of my mind is I'm still thinking about those, or I'm still looking at those notes in front of me. I'm like, where am I going to put this? When am I going to remember these things? And I'm not focused on this next meeting. Or even if I am, I'm like, okay, I have written down, I can focus. I'm focusing, taking more notes on the same paper. Like, okay, which note was from which meeting? I have no idea. And then at the end of the day, again, just like the receipts, it's going to be something like a pile of things you need to look at. So closing experiences is going to save you a lot of frustration at the end of the day, the week, the month. For example, if you wake up in the morning, throw your PJs on the bed. You take a shower, throw your robe on the bed. You go out, come in, throw your shoes somewhere. You didn't end the experience, right? You didn't put things where they needed to go. Guess what happens? You brought groceries. You're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'll put them away later. Put them on a counter and set down. Guess what? At bedtime, you're going to look at, oh my God, the groceries. I need to put them, the stuff in the fridge at least. And then you go to bed. I'm like, oh my God, there's a million things on my bed, right? Because we didn't close each of those experiences on its own time. And it would have taken us like fraction of the time. But that teeny tiny laziness, like, oh, I just remove my shoes and keep them on the floor while I put them in the shoes cupboard. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up in a messy environment, the clutter outside, the clutter in your brain, and the worry and the overwhelm, right? So closure is very important. But the most important, the reason I use the word closure is the most important is when after a meeting, you're still thinking about that meeting or what someone says or what you said. So let's assume we finish this workshop, and what I do is I start thinking about, oh my God, Anna, why did you say this? Why did you give that example? Why did you, it's 7:54, you still have a few slides. Oh my God, what were you thinking about? If I keep thinking about this, I have another event or experience or section of my day after this call, right? I'm gonna eat dinner, I'm gonna watch TV, maybe I have another meeting. I'm carrying that over. But the worst thing is, if I also have emotional baggage, which comes with these types of thoughts, right? I'm training myself to criticize myself, or I'm also thinking about maybe like, hey, I noticed Marilyn was looking at her phone. Oh my God, why did she even join? I'm sorry, just a random example, right? Why did she join the call if she's not going to focus? The stupid stories and assumptions and the things we create, or maybe even in this experience, we didn't have a good one, right? We fought with someone, we argued with someone. I don't know if you've noticed when swans or dogs kind of argue, when they turn their backs, they just shake their bodies to release that energy and they just go about their day. I don't know even if they remember that, but we carry that memory and that thing, we play it in our heads and we play it in different ways. We didn't close that session. We didn't close that experience. No matter how good or how bad it was, we didn't close it. So guess what? We're adding baggage. We're creating this kind of tainting our state of being, right? So that closure is also important. This is why sometimes, as I said, like my experience yesterday, I said, okay, fine, Anna, all the experiences stop after this email. You need to get back to, I think it's called homeostasis. back to that balance state before I can do anything else. Because if I'm keep thinking about that email, it's going to drain me. It might even drag me. I can drag it on for days and weeks and months and years, and we're creating that baggage. Now, yes, okay, we did this entire thing. Okay, good, Anna, I'm using this technique and everything's working fine, but all of a sudden I'm doing my action. I have the plan, I have the clarity, I'm about to take action and something's blocking me. That's when old baggages come out, right? Like fears and trauma and different things. Now, these are the things that we address in the moment, right? Whenever something comes up, you will need to, you realize, oh, okay, I didn't know that I had this in my baggage. I need to address this. Can I do it on my own, or do I need a specialist? So it's not a smooth sailing experience. I'm not saying that if you follow this technique, you're going to enjoy the experiences, you're going to take action, nothing's going to stop you because you have a plan, because we still have those baggages. But the moment we stop creating new ones, and then every time something new comes up, we just can deal with it. It's similar to having that basement or attic or room in the house. I don't know how many of you have that, where we just take something, it's like, I don't know where to put this. Okay, it goes in the attic. We're stopping doing that. We're not adding more things to the attic. And then we're saying, if something falls from the attic door, anytime, we'll address it at that moment. Or if we have more time, we say, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to deal with my traumas or past blockages. So this was about experiences for ourselves. I'm going to go through experiences for others real quick. Basically, it's the same thing, but if the experience involves other people or other environments and places, we want to make sure that we're focusing on what we can control and remembering that we can't control everything, especially when there's other people involved, and we're not making assumptions. Please always ask the person to get clarity from them whenever necessary. Again, we're checking our state of being. Why? Because if we're not in the right state of being, we'll be toxic. We'll be toxic in that interaction. And we want to try and also assess the state of being of the other person. Obviously, we need to respect their boundaries. So if they don't want to tell, we don't ask them. But if you notice that this person's like not focusing with you and say, hey, is everything okay? Do you want us to reschedule this meeting, this call, this lunch, whatever it is? And remember that we can do our best to the best of our ability and knowledge. Like, don't blame yourself if something goes wrong. Then when it comes to action, be present, obviously while keeping check of your state of being. Be transparent and honest. If you get distracted, say, hey, when you said that word, it kind of reminded me of something. I kind of lost you there for a moment. Please, cannot you allow me to write this down, because it's important, and then I'll have my full focus with you. Be transparent. Tell them, because people usually notice. They usually notice that you got distracted. And also respect the other people. Sometimes we get carried away by talking ourselves, and we don't give them the opportunity to talk or share or even appreciate. Just like now, it's 8 p.m. and I need to respect your time. And always ask for help if you need that. And to wrap up with others and the experience always on a high note, get clarity on what are the next steps for you, what are the next steps for them, that make sure that everyone understood what we're supposed to do if this is a meeting, and make sure that everything you need from this experience you got. Like, for example, sometimes we go somewhere and we get distracted by the talk, and then, oh my God, I forgot my umbrella or my bag somewhere, right? Make sure that you got everything to close the experience and say, okay, we're leaving this room. We're still talking together, so the experience continues, but we're leaving this space. Okay, what do I need to take with me? So finally, I want to remind you that this is just another strategy. You don't need to use it. I'm not here to tell you you should follow these steps. I hope this just enlightened you and made you think that, wait a second, truly, sometimes the cause of my frustration is my lack of planning, my lack of clarity. How can I bring more clarity and planning into my day so that I can enjoy everything I do, and I'm focused more on what I can control, and then I'm having better daily experiences, because that's where we live, in the present moment. So to have amazing experiences, we need to be present. To be fully present, we want to make sure that we're in the right state of being, so our minds, emotions, bodies don't distract us from the present moment. To eliminate frustration, we want to have clarity, we want to be prepared, and then we want to close the chapter before we enter the new one. And to live impactful lives and leave the world a better place, we need to be considerate of the consequences of our actions before we take them. Thank you very much. For everyone who's staying with us, if you have any questions, or if you're asking about the application of this for your day-to-day, the floor is yours. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your faces. Okay, and I'm going to check the comments. Yes, the wheel of emotions can be helpful. I also use this emotional scale. No, you don't need to have everything in the checklist before you take action. You just need to have clarity of the direction. You just need to have clarity on the first step, or the next step, I should say. Like every time you want to take a step, say, okay, do I know enough to take the next step? But also you need to have a bit of clarity about the entire project, just because you don't want to get blocked at some point. Like, for example, I've seen some people build a building, right? They're like, okay, let's get started. I know the first step, the second step, but they end up not doing the right calculations, and they don't finish building the building. And we've seen a lot of construction that just stopped because people don't have enough money. So you just want to make sure that you have what you're embarking on, you will be able to finish, even if you don't know all the steps or all the information at the moment, but that you know the people or the resources that you can use to get there. Okay. Yes, definitely always transfer notes to where they belong. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone wants to share live? Or should we end the session? Going once, going twice. No one? Awesome. I hope you found this helpful. I'm sorry I had to rush through it a little bit. And I still trimmed a lot of the content. I wanted to give you more value and more exercises. Hopefully next time we'll do actually more of a workshop where you actually think about an experience and write about it and use the technique. Until next time, have a great day or night or whatever it is, and have great experiences every day. Experience things fully, even if they're not enjoyable moments. There's a lesson in them. There's something in them for you. Thank you. See you. Bye.